The two Fullerton police officers that were involved in the beating death of homeless schizophrenic man Kelly Thomas have been acquitted of their charges. And since they've been acquitted, one of the officers, his name is Cicinelli, is going to sue the Fullerton Police Department so he can get his job back. For those of you who are unaware of this story, about 2 years ago, there was a case where authorities were called on the scene involving a homeless man who was being unruly. And when the cops responded, some excessive force was used, as was evident in the surveillance video. Take a look.
Get on the ground now. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Okay. Here, dude. Help me. Help me, please, Dad. Oh, Dad. I can't breathe. Dad.
So Cicinelli was the officer who actually tased Kelly Thomas in the head twice. And if you watch the video, the full video, you can see that the officers had already subdued him, but they continued beating him with their baton. Cicinelli kept beating him with the back end of the taser, and it was just a terrible, tragic story, but it doesn't matter. They both got acquitted for it. And now Cicinelli is saying that he was wrongfully terminated. How do you argue with a jury of 12 who all agree on the same thing? They sat through the whole trial and heard all the facts. The thought of him getting his job back scares the hell out of me. I mean...
Yeah, also, well, I mean, I hope he knows that, of course, that merely being unable to meet the burden of proof that the prosecution has to in any criminal case, but obviously in a murder case particularly, or most dramatically, of reasonable doubt. Just because there was no reasonable doubt doesn't mean that you didn't... The question was, did you use excessive force? Did you make horrible judgments in that day? What they found Cicinelli not guilty of was actually the use of excessive force and
involuntary
manslaughter. So, I mean, what's tough for me is I get more why the other officer, Ramos, right, was not found guilty of second-degree murder, which was a tougher sell. I thought that at the bare minimum, you'd get an excessive force conviction. But still, just because you did that doesn't mean you didn't misbehave or behave what I would see is incredibly obvious as conduct unbecoming an officer. I realize that's a military charge, but conduct unbecoming a police officer. By leaps and bounds, you're not fit to serve as a police officer, but maybe he's just looking for a settlement, or maybe he wants his job back.
Right. Well, it sounds like he wants his job back. I'm sure he'd be happy with the settlement as well. But the thing that really scares me about the idea of him getting his job back is, maybe this would empower him to use excessive force in the future, knowing that he wouldn't have to face any real consequences for it. But another thing that I would worry about is that it would embolden other police officers to use that type of force, especially because this sets a precedent, right? This shows that, hey, you know what? You can literally beat a man to death, even though 6 police officers have already subdued him, and a jury is gonna find you not guilty of excessive force. If that surveillance was not an example of excessive force, I don't really understand what excessive force is.
Yeah, and of course, it's worth reminding people that Kelly Thomas, who was homeless and schizophrenic and was obviously troubled, and I'm sure was really difficult for the police officers, but he was unarmed. So 60 should have been able to put handcuffs on him and get into a car without killing him. What I will disagree with you on, though, and I think it's significant, is that while it's a terrible shame and I think a miscarriage of justice that this happened, I don't see a lot of police officers thinking, those guys nearly got sent to prison. Ramos nearly got sent to prison perhaps for 20, 25 years, and it was all in the hands of a jury. I don't think any police officer thinks those guys got off easy. They got out of it. They escaped. They slithered free, but they damn near went to prison. I mean, the important thing, more important than the conviction, because the conviction, of course, is ultimately left up to how the jury interprets the facts at a trial, and both those officers are entitled to a defense. What was good and more important is that the prosecution went after these guys. They prosecuted these guys. They charged them. They took them to trial. Different jury, different circumstances, different part of the world. These guys may be going to prison. So I don't think the cops love the verdict, but I don't think they think this is a refusal to indict. It would be telling cops, pound away.
Right. I think that I'm more speaking to the trend that I see within law enforcement right now. And of course, anytime we talk about this, there has to be the caveat of course, not all officers are like this. Not all of them use excessive force.
If Jimmy Dore were here, he'd be like, no. They're all like this.
I know. He would say that. I disagree with him on that. But I would say that this isn't an isolated incident, right? We do stories on police using excessive force on a regular basis. And there is this trend where they seem to get away with it. And I feel like the more it happens, the more those cops who want to abuse their power feel empowered to do so. So that's basically what I'm saying. And I could be wrong about that. That's just my speculation. But
it's just a goddamn sad friggin' story, man.
It really is.
It's a tragedy. I mean,
Yeah.
There's crying. I mean, the guy has just needed help his whole life. He's sick. He's diseased. He needed help, and he constantly needed help. And here are cops who are supposed to help people, and he's crying out for his father. Just at what point do you stop thinking, hey, you know what? I think we got him. Let's just put the cuffs on, put him in the car, maybe take him to the hospital since we just beat the shit out of him.
yeah.
Like, why do you keep going? I don't understand it.